to apologize for keeping you waiting for too long from 12 noon when we had suggested to start this press conference. During the budget making time, we lose our track because of the competing needs for time around this period. And therefore, it is not by design that we keep you waiting for too long, and especially over lunchtime when we also need to go and refresh our energies. So we value you, and we didn't keep you because of any other reason other than the pressures of work. Those who've been here with us the whole of this week from last week, you know for sure that we have been burning midnight oil so that we deliver a budget that is serving the people of Kenya in the best way it should. From Monday, we've been holding multiple meetings every day. And these meetings have been there because we needed to meet all the representatives of all the government ministries, departments, and agencies, which we call MDAs. And then there is a lot of consultation that is also involved in the budget making process. And at the right time. We've been here up to most of the time late at night. We've been with most of you here. And therefore, again, it is a process that demands to do what we are doing. Now, I just wanted us to spend just a few minutes to appraise Kenyans on what we've been doing, because in terms of the economy, the process we've been carrying from Monday accounts for most of then what shapes the economy. In terms of policy, because allocation of money is also policy, because it signals where the country is going and therefore the reason why the country is investing in those critical areas. The budget we are making is unprecedented in many ways. One, as you know, the precursor of budget making process starts with the budget policy statement, which sets the ceilings for which the MDAs have to constrain their spending. So budget policy statement is the one that then gives the path for the estimates, which in other words, we call the budget. We were with you just across here when we were doing the budget policy statement, and the figure that we approved was 4.18 trillion Kenya shillings. And I'm saying these figures because they are important, and they are part of the reason why we thought it is important we call you here so that we also communicate to Kenyans about it. So out of the 4.18 trillion shillings, something happened that has not been done in recorded history. That the figures that are read at the budget policy statement are higher than the figures that we consider at the estimates. Many times budgets are read which are higher than the budget policy statement because of the need to spend more. But this time, because of what we are doing in terms of fiscal consolidation, the estimates we are considering now are amounting to 3.914 trillion, meaning there is a cut of 273 billion from the budget policy statement level to the current estimates level. We are therefore downgrading our appetite to spend by 270 billion Kenya shillings. What that means is that we have relooked at our revenue projections, but more primarily, the deficit. Many times we make a budget, and all the time actually, there is usually the element of the budget. The reason I'm saying that is because now, if you look at the current fiscal framework of the budget we are talking about today, we have the projection of ordinary revenue of around 2.9 trillion. And then there is appropriations in aid of around 441 billion shillings. Then grants of around 51 billion. Then there is a deficit. That deficit is part of also one of the issues we want to communicate, is that the reason why we downgraded the budget in terms of expenditure is because we also want to rationalize the amount of money we are anticipating to borrow as a country. At the budget policy statement level, the country was looking forward into borrowing around 700 billion Kenya shillings. Now, in this budget policy in these estimates, we have brought down that deficit to around 514 billion Kenya shillings. So we have cut on the money we are expecting to borrow. Under this consideration of this budget, we are also considering the lowest in many years deficit to GDP ratio that is coming in to fill the budget of just 2.9%. As you know, last year, but one, it was almost 7%, because every time we continue to spend less, to borrow less. Consequently then, we have also increased the amount of money we are putting into payments of interest rates. There is an expenditure in the budget called Consolidated Fund Services, which accounts for the payment of interest rates and also pensions. We have also enhanced that to close to 1.3 trillion Kenya shillings, and Kenya will be spending 1.08 trillion Kenya shillings into payments of interest rates for our loans, what we call in Kizungu mingi financial obligations. They are loans we are paying for, which were taken, of course, earlier. So we'll be spending 1.08 trillion into paying interest rates. Maybe the only sunshine in that is that most of it, of us, around 750 billion, will be interest rates to Kenyans, which is domestic, and the rest will be to foreign obligations. We'll be spending around 200 billion also into pensions, that is CFS. Now, I want now to go to specific areas, which we thought is very good that we clarify, because we have also seen those issues being of great concern to Kenyans. One, I want to assure the people of Kenya that the Budget and Appropriations Committee, in consultation with the entire Parliament led by the Department for Education, and in consultation with the Executive, there is an issue that has been of very great concern to Kenyans about school feeding program. And I want to assure Kenyans that you have already considered so far monies that will be going into NACONEC to advance the cause of school-going children in areas that they need support in terms of food. And therefore, school feeding program is there. We have provided for the money, and it will continue uninterrupted. In the first phase, we will be proposing around 3 billion Kenya shillings into the fund, as also we look at the strengthening its supply chains so that we continue also to enhance that budget. So school feeding program is there, we have provided for it. Secondly, there are many of our brothers and sisters who are currently under internship in our JSS and other areas within the education sector. I also want to clarify and make it very clear that the Budget and Appropriations Committee, again consulting with the relevant departments and education department in Parliament, that we have provided resources for the confirmation of JSS interns into permanent and pensionable terms. We do this because they have already done a great job so far. Of course, with very little pay, it is only fair that we treat our brothers and sisters who are current interns in a manner that they have also treated our country with a lot of respect. And that is why we thought it is important that we consider the monies for the JSS teachers. The other thing in the education sector, we'll be making amendments on the proposal that was submitted by the National Treasury, because you have also seen some gaps. But before I come to the gaps, it is also important, because I want to be very brief, also other members can say something. Maybe the other thing before I come to the enhancement that we are going to do. This process has been running concurrently. 3 very important processes. The supplementary estimates for 23-24 financial year, and the full year estimates consideration for the year 24-25. There is also another very critical process. When we are appropriating money, we also consider that Kenya has devolved counties or devolved units, and therefore we also run concurrent with how much money is going to the counties, especially vertically, so that we also appropriate how much money is coming into the national government. And that process is enhanced through a process or a document called the Division of Revenue Bill. There has been conflicting figures proposed by various agencies, and I also want to make it very clear today that we have been able to hold mediation process. We concluded yesterday, and this committee, the president, and all the other agencies involved, including the County of Governors, led by Governor Anne Waiguru, the Senate, we have come to a conclusion that we all must support devolution. And in that respect, we have done major changes in the Division of Revenue Bill, and therefore we have added the equitable share from the previous 375 billion Kenya shillings into the current figure, which will be proposing for approval, that the equitable share in Kenya in the year 24-25 will now be 400.1 billion Kenya shillings. This is unprecedented. That figure has never come close to that, and it goes into showing that we are walking the talk in the support of devolution. We have devolved the equitable share of 400 billion, which means more services into the healthcare, more resources into agriculture, more resources into ECD, more resources into water distribution, and all the other devolved functions. And we'll continue doing more. We are doing more in the additional allocation to our counties, which are conditional, which we are also giving over 45 billion Kenya shillings in that regard. Maybe I want to also say this so that I give others an opportunity. The proposal before us from the National Treasury has been 3.14 trillion. This committee, after looking at the gaps that we needed to bridge, will be deciding on adding some extra monies into our expenditure. And it's important that we communicate this to Kenyans, because some of the areas we saw, especially school feeding program, needs more resources, can't wait. And therefore this committee also thought it is important we add more money into that. We'll be adding more money into our universities for help. That is one, because all that money also finds its way to the universities. We'll be adding more money into infrastructure in our universities, which majority have stalled. We'll be adding more money into DUC model, maybe around 5 billion shillings, so that the first years who will be reporting in September will also have resources waiting for them. We'll also be proposing additional resources into the seed money of some of the funds we created through the new, what is replacing NHIF? SHIF. We'll be proposing additional resources into the seed funds for those, if you read that law, we are creating new entities. They need to be capitalized. We'll be adding more than 25 billion Kenya shillings into healthcare so that we make universal healthcare accessible to all Kenyans. All this we are doing because we thought it is important we budget for these monies now, other than later, because we need Kenyans to enjoy this utility as soon as possible. Otherwise, I want to thank you very much. The other thing I want to close with, we have done something that is also very exciting. Electricity is no longer a luxury in Kenya. It is also a way of making the ease of business, doing business more efficient, and also it is important in terms of our livelihoods. And therefore, this committee has provided over and above the budget that is usually appropriated in the energy sector. We have also, and will be proposing for approval in the National Assembly, an extra 14.5 billion Kenya shillings, money that will go into connectivity of electricity in all the 290 constituencies in Kenya. Because even as we appropriate resources, we are cognizant of the fact that equity is important, and therefore it is important that as we develop Kenya, we develop it from all the corners of our beloved country. And therefore, every constituency in Kenya will be getting an extra 50 million shillings that will go into electricity connection. And we are doing the preparatory work through REREC, which will be hiring more contractors in anticipation of that program that will definitely be a game changer in regards to electricity connection in Kenya. The other last thing I want to mention, equalization fund, we have provided money because Kenya will only develop when all Kenya is developing. So equalization fund has been provided for. So, and currently is actually now able, I remember the last time we met with this team, equalization fund was not functional in Kenya. It is now functional. We have added resources, and even the arrears of that 3 billion of the previous years will continue to provide for those monies in the coming years so that we give equalization fund all the dues that are required. Very lastly, NGCDF, as you know, is a share of the revenue that we collect as a country, and therefore, consequently, every year it goes up because of that. And in Kenya now, every constituency will be getting an average of 180 to 220 million shillings every year because it is differentiated through the number of wards. That is why it is not possible to give the exact figure. Otherwise, we have aligned this budget to answer to the needs of Kenyans. We have answered this budget to respond to the economic growth that we are projecting. Na ndio hiyo mambo yote tumeweka, tukaweka mambo ya school feeding program, hiyo itakuwa tukienda next year, not next year, it will be uninterrupted. Let me rephrase that. Tumeweka pesa ya school feeding program, itaendelea bila tatizo lolote. Kwa sababu wale watoto wote wanaenda shule, hata pahali ambao kuna shida ya chakula. Hao ni Wakenya wadosi wa kesho na tunavyoangalia. Tumeangalia pesa ya stima, kila eneo bunge la Kenya litapata shilingi milioni 50 ya uenezaji wa stima through a government agency called REREC. Tumeweka pesa pia ya kuanza universal health coverage. We'll be proposing an additional expenditure ya 30 billion Kenya shillings ambayo itaenda kwa operationalize zile institution zinapeleka universal healthcare coverage efficiently. Na ya mwisho, haya mambo yote tunafanya ya kutengeneza bajeti ambayo itasaidia uchumi wetu kwenda mbele na ambayo utasaidia Wakenya wote wajihisi ya kwamba wana participate kwa uchumi ukienda mbele. Na hiyo yote mkiangalia last year mtaona hii budget hii kamati ya bajeti ilitengeneza budget mzuri, na ndio maana uchumi wa Kenya in the year 2023 ulikuwa kwa 5.6%, ambayo ni kama 26th fastest growing economy in the world. Hizi kazi tunafanya hapa ndio imefanya inflation ya Kenya. Inflation in Kenya now is at 5% in the month of April, and if you check the figures, it is very, very, very admirable. Ukiangalia pia exchange rate ya Kenya, shilingi sasa iko around 130 shillings. In this year alone, our local currency has gained 15% against the dollar, 18% against the pound, and an average of 17% across all the regional currencies. Hiyo ni kuonyesha ile decision tunafanya ya uchumi inazaa matunda. Sasa wacha nipatie Makali Mulu. Maswali tunaweza uliza baadaye mkiitaka.
Very good.